Being a venture capitalist and an active investor have its own perks. I started as a very low-level junior officer at an investment bank in New York, but due to my dedication and hard work, I rose up the ranks pretty quickly, and just over the course of 5 years, I was one of the top executives, and soon I moved to a private equity firm where I was managing big clients with big budgets and heavily investing in green energy and renewable resources of investments, as well as purchasing heavy amounts of digital coins. Having all the investor friends, it was not a big deal that each week I was spending time either at basketball events or at fashion catwalks. But over the course of time, I started to feel lonely, and due to my business schedule, I was unable to find a suitable match or to properly date someone within my league. It was something that had started to bother me in recent years, so I figured out that I should do something about it. One day, me and my close buddies were having a golf match on a fine Sunday afternoon. I presented my problem to my very close friend. He said, "It's not a big deal, don't worry about it. This weekend we are having a yacht party and all the top models from the state of Chicago will be there. Why don't you join us? I'll introduce you. Who knows, someone might click the good chemistry with you." The next day, I went out shopping with my friend and bought one of the finest three-piece suits from Mark & Spencer. It came with a navy blue coat and with check shirt in black. In the evening at the party, I was surprised to see so many gorgeous ladies. After meeting such nice ladies, what I realized was that I had been missing out so much in life while building my career, and it was something that I should have taken care of a long time ago. Well, it's never too late. While I was thinking about this, I suddenly saw a lady in a fine red dress sitting beside a fireplace and having a cup of coffee. So I went there and joined her after the introduction. To my surprise, she was also interested in financial markets. She was a very good listener as well, and was more interested in my story than telling hers, which kept me engaged, and I was so thrilled to share my experiences. After having like 20 minutes of conversation, I asked her if she would be interested in joining me for the dinner. She agreed, and we soon left the party and went to one of the finest high-view restaurants in the city. I introduced her to some of my favorite dishes. She was mesmerized by my knowledge in the fine dining. We started our conversation about financial markets and how the next 10 years will be impacted by cryptos, so it was one of the most interesting conversations we had. I was impressed by her knowledge in current affairs and world economics, and to my surprise, she was doing her PhD in business studies from Harvard Law School. It was getting late, so I asked her if she would be interested to join me for dinner next weekend. She immediately and excitedly agreed, and also said, "Why not? Show me around your office this coming week if you are comfortable." To hear this, I was delighted, and I promised her before dinner that I would show her my firm and my office. Although my next week was quite busy as we were having one on-board meeting with our new investor, yet I was anxiously anticipating the weekend to meet her. On Saturday evening, I called her and picked her up from apartment, and after buying her a really lovely dress, I took her to my office and gave her a brief tour. She was impressed to see that I was one of the main managers there. It was one of the most memorable and lovely evenings of my life. We had a blast. I took her to sushi restaurant to experience the new recipes that they were introducing. She was a smooth talker and a very agreeable personality, so it was a very smooth transition from getting to know her to bonding a really good friendship. Over the course of the next few months, we became really close friends. I started to take her to new places almost every other week. Sometimes we used to go watch sports events in stadiums. Other times we used to experience new recipes and new restaurants, and the remaining time we used to visit fashion shows. It was a really good time of my life as I was enjoying her company, and she was a very comforting person. In the next few months, I was falling madly in love with her. So finally, one fine evening, after watching a really beautiful sunset, I proposed to her hand in marriage. At first, she was a bit quiet, but then with a beautiful smile, she agreed. So that's how our life journey began, and we got married right away, and we shifted in a new location and started a new chapter of our life. Since she was an ambitious person, she was also very much interested in joining a law firm. So she applied to all top firms. I wanted to give her a really good surprise as her birthday was coming next weekend. I requested one of my top investors to give my wife a chance in his law firm, as she was not only talented but also a graduate from the top law school. On her birthday, I gave her a recommendation letter as a birthday gift that she was now part of one of the top law firms of Chicago State. She was happy beyond words. She had tears of joy in her eyes, and after seeing her gratitude, it also melted my heart, and I felt that it was worth a shot. Just after a week, she joined that firm and now had a really good job as a financial lawyer. She was very happy about it, but soon she got busy with her job, as I was already occupied by mine. Now, we rarely got any time to spend together. One day, something very strange happened. My personal assistant told me that one of my favorite restaurants manager had called and asked if we had our reservations at the top deck, to which I replied I had not arranged any. He told me that my wife had made a reservation for 2. I thanked him and assumed that my wife wanted to give me a surprise dinner, so I was expecting to get her call, but strangely, it never came. A few days had passed and my wife had not mentioned any such thing. I requested the bill and it was quite an expensive dinner, so the only thing on my mind was maybe it was a client that she wanted to impress. Next week again the same thing happened, and yet I was not informed nor invited or mentioned anywhere. This raised an eyebrow, still I ignored it. The pattern started to repeat itself after each couple of days. So one day, out of irritation, I went to the restaurant and requested to see the manager and asked the whereabouts of her arrangements, to which he replied that a model was accompanying my wife and they both had been regular customers for some time now. Upon my request, as he had become my friend, he showed me the videotape, and to my surprise, a young model from a local talent agency was with her each time. I was unable to make a connection as to why she was hosting a young model, so I requested a personal assistant to hire a private investigator to tape her activities and to follow her around, so that I might get aware of what had been happening behind my back. Just within a couple of days, he reached back with sad news that they both had been actively dating for quite some time now, and they had been pretty intimate with each other, while she had traveled with him quite frequently to attend private parties. This really broke my heart because I had done everything in my power to prove myself as a best husband. We never had any disagreement, then why she would be seeking such thrills and doing such acts of infidelity. At first, I did not believe my private investigator, so I requested him to take snaps and prove me with evidence. So he went about following her and took some really intimate snaps of them meeting in public places, and also showed me their chat history. This really took me off guard, and I was very much shaken by getting all this information. It took me almost 1 week just to overcome the situation that had shaken me so badly. While on the other hand, she was acting pretty normally, but I could feel the distance in her eyes and cold approach in her tone, so I decided to confront her. But instead of confronting her directly, I planned to make it worth a lesson. But before I could take any step, I wanted to reconcile with her and repair our relationship, which I was totally unaware of where I was lacking or what was my mistake in all this situation. I took her to vacation on a private island where we could spend a few days together. Maybe she brought something up, and I was hoping if we could be back together as we started. But to my surprise, all the way there she was busy on her phone, and after that either she was reading a book or sleeping. She was barely talking to me, although her responses were quite polite and friendly, yet the distance that she was showing was not very comforting. But now it was pretty clear that we were drifting apart. just it was not verbally said. I tried to initiate conversation with her and also requested her to join me for couple therapy if there was anything I could do to help us get back on track. But it was all in vain, as she was just giving minimal responses and was basically not interested in having any conversation. But she also had no particular reason to break it off, as her life with me was very comfortable. But she also was just out of convenience. So instead of making life hard on her by pushing to reconcile, I planned to treat her as she treated me. I also started dating and found one of her very close friends. So I took her for dinner and we also got pretty comfortable around each other, but obviously it was not as good as my first relationship. But just to make her feel what I had been gone through, I kept it all going, and one day I had a brilliant idea that would give her equal response. My manager told me that she would be joining with her friend for dinner as she had booked the table for the coming Saturday afternoon, so I took this golden opportunity, and just before she had to come, I was already there with my date 15 minutes prior and sat at the same table. As she entered the restaurant and saw me sitting at the exact same table with her best friend, she was horrified and angry to the core. She tried to make the scene right then and there and came to the table and accused me of cheating on her, and also was pretty blunt to her best friend. But I calmly responded that this is just my second day, but you've been coming here, sitting here, eating here at the same table since last whole year. While I had known all this the whole time and did my best to repair the relationship, I also kept quiet and did my all to repair our relationship. By hearing all this, she got mortified and had no words to speak. With mixed emotions, she just left the venue. Next day, I went to her law firm and booked an appointment with her senior lawyer for our divorce case. This was a very insulting experience for her, as they all had been thinking of her as the most loyal and faithful wife. Yet here I was standing with all the evidence and all the records showing to the senior lawyer, and they were pretty disappointed in her. Finally, the case proceeded and we got our separate ways. But upon releasing this news, she got famous in the whole of the firm, and it was so much of an insult for her that ultimately she had to leave the job. Although I was a bit sad for a while, but went through so many hardships, I got back on my feet in no time. A couple months later, I saw her at an event with my friend. She has lost so much weight and was basically weak. Upon seeing me, she requested me to give her some time, but I apologized and finally said I was wholeheartedly yours and was always there for you no matter what. But now I think it's time we depart, and depart for the best. I wish you good luck in your life, but I don't want to have any sort of communication with you anymore. After saying this, I just left with a new date.